War tears countries apart, tears families apart. For children caught in its crossfire, coming of age is a fight for life itself.
You fear constantly. I don't too much care about my death, but I'm worried about what if my father died and how my life will be like. What if I become orphan and my mother died? Our children and our parents, hurt, wounded, and killed every day. And so our world is no longer heaven, but it become hell then.
In the eyes of most Americans, the war in Vietnam had an American face. Americans both at home and abroad suffered tremendously. Yet, those who lost the most, the ones left to pick up the pieces, were the people of Vietnam. Over 3 million Vietnamese were killed. Those who lived had to fight for survival in a country starved by economic sanctions and a communist regime. Ly Hayslip was one caught in the middle of the war waged in her homeland. Her story is both of survival and of triumph. It is the story of one woman's quest to heal the wounds of war and build a bridge between the East and West. The story of a journey from war to peace and beyond. Phung Thi Lê Ly, the youngest of 6 children, was born in 1950 in the small farming village of Ly in central Vietnam. When she was 13, helicopters landed in a field where Ly was tending the family's water buffalo. The American War, as the Vietnamese call it, soon engulfed her village, turning it into a prison of fear, distrust, and suspicion. As the war raged in and around Ly, Ly was recruited as a lookout by the Viet Cong.
In those days, they're all Vietnamese. I'm not really helping the Viet Cong. I'm helping my neighborhood. I defend in my own motherland, my ancestor graveyard. I am fighting just to be alive. And if somebody come and burn down my house and rape my mother and torture my father, you think I would be on their side? Or should I fight back? And that is what every Vietnamese, we fight back for that. And as a human, of course we have to support our immediate family before outsider. Who is immediate family? My father, mother, brother and sister, uncle and auntie, the people that I live with every day, they become Viet Cong. That's not my wish. It's not anyone's wish. That the Viet Cong as American names them, not because we name them as a Viet Cong. We all call them as freedom fighter. They fight on behalf of our life. They fight on behalf of our villagers and our ancestor graveyard and our beautiful rice paddy and our coconut tree and our pond and our rivers.
Lay's older brother Sao Ban soon left to fulfill his duty and fight for the freedom fighters. They never saw him again.
The sadness is my parents cry over him. Nobody talking to anyone. Nobody trusts anyone. You cannot tell people that you have a brother, and you cannot tell people you have a son. The question is, where is he? And then you end up in torture camp.
Soldiers from both sides had turned their rice paddies into killing fields. 1/3 of the people in her village perished. Somehow, Ly survived. In this horrific environment, viewing the machines of war through the eyes of a child, Ly came of age. By the time she was 16, Ly had suffered the loss of beloved family members, imprisonment, torture, and rape by South Vietnamese soldiers. Alive, but banished for the shame of having been raped, Ly fled to the city of Da Nang, where she would live for the next 5 years. When she was 20, Ly married an American civilian who was working in Vietnam and escaped to the United States with him. The move, however, did not bring an end to her conflict.
On other, I can manage. I learn as I go. But on the comments and the point that point out about Vietnamese goods, that with monkeys swinging a tree, we should kill them all. I mean, we're human.
Ly settled into life in America as best she could, but was desperately homesick for her family and motherland.
Money doesn't fulfill my emptiness. It's nice to have, but it's not buy me happiness when I think about Vietnam, when I think about my village and the people that I grew up with, who live in, what happened to them. My mother, what does she do now? And all of those things that make me happy. But it's just so far away. I can't reach it. I can't email her, can't call her. I can't even write a letter to her.
In 1986, twice widowed and with 3 sons, Ly left everything she had in San Diego and returned to Vietnam to search for the family she had left behind.
In those days, between U.S. and Vietnam is no diplomat, it's no relations, no communication. It's just like in 2 different planets. One is capitalist, another one is communist. To me, I care less. I am just a human being. I want just like a bird that I want to have wings and fly to Vietnam and see my mom. And so when the time comes, I just say I have to do it. I just couldn't wait any longer.
Ly's emotional reunion with her family opened the door to their healing. But she was stunned to see the country and her people still deeply scarred by the wounds of war.
I'm lucky enough to be over here in 1970. 1986, I returned to Vietnam. I was shocked. I was totally overwhelmed with what happened there that I didn't know after 1975.
The embargo that followed the U.S. conflict made it impossible for the underdeveloped country to move beyond its brutal past, and devastating poverty continued. Help would have to come from the outside, and from what Ly saw, she recognized a great deal of work lay ahead. Rather than let the ghosts of war destroy her country, Ly, along with a core of inspired and dedicated colleagues, set out to rebuild Vietnam, brick by brick.
I come back from Vietnam in 1986. I just can't function. I am totally out of this world. My body is here, but my soul is somewhere in Vietnam.
She wanted so much to be able to help her countrymen. You know, so many people died in Vietnam. She wanted to give a voice to those millions of people that died in that senseless war. And in the course of doing that, she also was able to help heal the wounds of war with veterans, with American veterans who'd spent time there.
I try to preach this therapy to other veterans that, you know, veterans have a saying of saying to each other, welcome home. And I always preach you have to go back in order to really, truly come home, because you have to go full circle. We're called full circle vets, those of us that have gone back and done something in Vietnam and tried to heal from it. You know, it's a very healing and uplifting experience.
And so, of course, I meet with U.S. Vietnam veterans. They are the ones that have a voice in those days because they fought in the war. They wounded from the war. They come back and they want to do something active and compassionate for the Vietnamese people. So I work with them, and that is when my first started.
While Ly was planning the initial humanitarian efforts, she also began working on a memoir. Writing the book was both a cathartic release and a way to bring more attention to the plight of her people.
First, my idea was write a book first, because no matter what, if the people in those days still very much against Vietnamese people and hate the war and they don't want to talk about it. And so for people to help Vietnam, they have to understand what we went through and how we survived through the wars.
In 1989, her book When Heaven and Earth Change Places was released. The poetic, dreamlike story of a peasant girl's struggle to survive earned critical reviews. While many have written about the Vietnam War, Ly is recognized as one of the first authors to bring a Vietnamese perspective to American discussions of the war. The attention her book received allowed Ly to travel across the United States to give lectures and appear on television talk shows, providing a much-needed voice for the people of her homeland. Despite her best efforts, though, some in the American Vietnamese community believe she was a communist supporter, and Ly's life was threatened many times.
When I met her, it was a time when a lot of the Vietnamese that were speaking out about normalization of relations were labeled communist. And so being an ex-VC, she had to put up with a lot of crap. And it was very dangerous for her during that time.
People died back then, and Ly was such an obvious target. She is very brave.
Ly was not deterred. Unwavering concern for the welfare of her people kept her going, and she began to do what most believed was impossible. In 1988, she created the East Meets West Foundation, and with the help of Americans, Vietnamese, and the Communist government, managed to bring medical supplies to several villages in Vietnam. Then in 1989, the Mother's Love Clinic was built in Ly, funded by filmmaker Oliver Stone, and constructed by Vietnamese and American veterans working side by side.
It took an hour or 2 hours to get to the hospital in those days to Da Nang. So by building the clinic there, we would have access right away to primitive, but at least it would be some materials. And I think, several thousand children have been born there. So that's great, and I hope it lasts.
Built it by 3 U.S. Vietnam veterans together with Viet Cong, the Vietnamese villagers, and the Communist Party, and funded by Oliver Stone. So that is a first post, I call it a first post to build the bridges between U.S. and Vietnam, between the East and West, between enemy and friends.
One of the things that I like most about Ly was she's a former VC. And so a lot of people have always found it strange that I, as a combat soldier, was working with a former VC. I don't really see that that's an issue for us, but other people seem to think that that's an issue. But like the Vietnamese say, the past is the past, so why shouldn't we work together?
1 year later, and again with the help of U.S. veterans, the Peace Village Medical Clinic was built in China Beach.
Most veterans, when you say Vietnam, they have this immediate image of the killing and the death. Whatever their experience was, they have this preset of images. You know, it may be some traumatic experience that pops in their head when you say Vietnam. But if you take them back to Vietnam and put them through some kind of a process like we're talking as a healing process, then when they come home and someone says Vietnam, they got this whole new set of beautiful new images, new friends, new experiences, new sights and sounds, new places they visited, new things they did, and they start talking about all the wonderful things they did in Vietnam. They're a different person.
1993 saw the construction of the Village of Hope Children's Center to serve at-risk children from central Vietnam. There, children attend school, learn English, receive health care, and participate in vocational training.
Niềm hy vọng đến cho cái tương lai của tụi con, không những con mà tất cả những bọn, những đứa trẻ mồ côi khác là có thêm một cái niềm tin trong cuộc sống, và sự che chở đùm bọc đó sẽ luôn luôn thôi thúc cái niềm hy vọng và cũng như cái sự quyết tâm làm thay đổi cái cuộc sống hiện tại không may mắn của tụi em để trở thành hiện thực, và điều đó nó làm cho tụi em là rất là biết ơn.
My mom died when I was 7 and my dad died before, I don't know. And so I went there because we don't have enough money to go to school and we don't have enough money to have a good meal.
Ly has made a profound difference in the lives of the children at the Village of Hope.
We call her mom because she want everybody feel that they have someone, you know, they have a mom to call. Everything you need, just, you know, count on me. And, you know, we just keep calling her mom whenever she comes to orphanage. And when you use the sound mom, it's like you feel like happy or somehow, because it's just something you never cause. When she say that, we all like, wow, we have a mom.
She changed my life a lot from how different I was when I was a little girl, and I'm really wanna looking up after her, like what happened, all the things she did, and I'm really, really like proud of her. Like, wow, she's an amazing woman.
Through the work of the foundation, Hai and Tem were adopted and are currently living and attending school in the U.S.
I'm gonna graduate from high school this summer, and I'm gonna go to junior college in Santa Rosa, and after that I'm gonna study for dental assistant.
But while the work of the foundation charged forward, it remained largely unnoticed until 1993, when Oscar-winning director Oliver Stone brought Lay's book to life on film. Heaven and Earth became the third movie in his Vietnam trilogy, after Platoon and Born on the 4th of July.
Who she became fascinates her, so she explores it in 2 books, which are amazingly solid stories, good stories, because it's a dramatic life where she was, for example, on both sides of the war. She was both VC and she was taught the American way. So she was, and then in America she was divided equally. She thought America Act 3 would be the end of the story, but it wasn't.
Press coverage generated by the film brought more attention to Lay's story and to her foundation's humanitarian work.
I worked very hard, but then when the books come out in 1989, I thought things it easier, but no, nobody really cared. So when did Oliver come in and help with the funding to build the Mother Love Clinic, absent the book for the movie, that is when things starting to bright up and starting to a little easier.
The goal of the foundation was not just to build clinics and orphanages, but to aid 80 million Vietnamese by helping to end the embargo against their country.
When we were first working on these clinics, that was our perspective of we was going to bust the embargo. And when they said the NGOs could go in there finally, we got us a Treasury license to begin working. We were the first to pick up a hammer and start mixing mortar and laying bricks. I'm very proud of that. So we kind of opened the door. We kind of opened the door a little bit, got the crack opened a little bit.
That goal was realized in 1994 when President Clinton lifted the embargo, and was further supported by his historic visit to Vietnam in 2000, the first by an American president since 1969. Despite much recent progress, Vietnam continues to be one of the poorest nations in the world. After leaving the East Meets West Foundation in 1999, Ly established the Global Village Foundation to help end the cycles of poverty, illiteracy, and hopelessness while preserving the rich heritage of the Vietnamese people.
When I heard about her efforts to create clinics and schools in Vietnam, that just touched my heart, because every child deserves the best chance at a healthy, peaceful life that they can possibly have, and there are so many needs.
Global Village now it concentrates and focuses on the education. With it, we're going to set up the library in every school that East Meets West and Global Village build.
So one book at a time, one poster at a time, one child at a time, helping to lift up people who need a helping hand and to equip them to be strong and capable leaders in the future.
Because most of the humanitarian assistance in Vietnam has focused on urban areas, the foundation concentrates its work in the rural villages.
You come from the city and you drive to a place 2 hours away and you're in a completely different world. People out there, they need everything from clean water to health care to education. They need the whole package.
Global Village funds the building of village schools, cultural and vocational training centers, markets, and medical and dental clinics. A new initiative for the foundation provides schools with books and other educational materials through a mobile library program.
And so Global Village Foundation not only builds the schools, but also supply with the books for children to read. And if the children cannot come to school twice a day, at least they still can have books to read when they have free time.
Ly and members of the Global Village Foundation make frequent trips to Vietnam, bringing supplies and visiting these programs.
When I go into these villages, we form a bond with them over the time when we first arrive into their village and meet with them, and until the time that we have the grand opening ceremony, and we become friends and we work together. It's not just, okay, go build it and leave. You know, we like to come back, and if it's a school, we, you know, bring gifts for the children. We paint murals on the walls, and to make it a place that they want to come to school. You know, we put a playground in. We make them comfortable and happy.
This trip, first we have a grand opening school that we built this morning. And this afternoon, the group of dentists from Oregon came to work on the children's teeth.
And this is just emergency work. We're just taking care of a lot of the things that we're letting go are bad problems. You know, back home, you'd be doing pulpotomies and stainless steel crowns on them. Basically what we're doing is taking teeth out that are either abscessed or will definitely abscess before they would come out on their own. And the other major problems, we're just letting them go. Our object for the future is to prevent this. We've got to stop this problem from happening.
When I go into these villages out in the countryside here, I see houses that aren't houses. There's not even any walls. It's just like a thatched house.
This is one of the house that Global Village Foundation built. So his house, it used to look like that little one right there. And that is a family of husband and wife and 2 children.
If you're at a house that you built for a family and you see the look in their eyes and you see how it affects them and their whole family, and that's the payoff.
I used to cry all the time when I come here, and it just really rained me and really burned me out. But then I just say, you know, but I sleep good, one night rest, next morning I start all over again.
During a trip in January of 2006, Ly was able to visit with her 102-year-old mother before her mother's passing just a few months later. Honoring the sacrifices her mother made has been a driving force in Ly's devotion to making a positive difference in the lives of others. In addition to conducting its own humanitarian work, the Global Village Foundation recognizes individuals working throughout the world to foster peace by presenting the Bridge of Peace Awards at an annual gala.
I mean, what we do today, it will affect 20, 50 years from now. And to those people who are willing to give up their private life to do something good for mankind, I think they earn acknowledgement and empower other people to start and do the same. And that is the purpose of the Bridge of Peace Award.
Perhaps more than any other, Ly has given a face and a voice to the victims of war.
Ly is one of the best sources of information of how do you survive a country torn apart, how do you survive losing family members, how do you survive a war, and how do you make sense out of it, because this affects people's lives on a very deep level.
I think if you read the book or know Ly, you realize that we're all so much alike. It's not a them and an us. So I think it's so important for especially kids to see that it's important what you do.
Ly has received many awards for her philanthropic work and continues to give lectures and workshops across the country and around the world.
Ly is a very unusual person. She's one of the people in the world who are able to inspire other people and make them feel and understand the pain and the excitement of a really important project.
I think what's so remarkable is that she could hold this vision so long against so many obstacles, you know, in spite of the obstacles that faced her. To have your life threatened, to have your books banned, to have people look down on you and still not lose sight of your focus, I think is just a wonderful inspiration for kids today. My goodness, for them to be able to look to her and say, look, if she can do it. She didn't have the education, she didn't have the English, she didn't have any of those resources, and yet it was not impossible. She did it, and she continues to do it today, and I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud to know her and call her my friend.
Ly Hayslip's tireless efforts demonstrate the profound impact one person can make in the lives of millions.
She doesn't give up. That's what's amazing about her. And it hardens you to some degree, and you pay that price for fighting, but she's tough. She's a tough Vietnamese woman.
Certainly, there is a place, a definite place, you know, in a world that is full of conflict, that there is hope, and that through peaceful measures and through reaching out to the hearts of the people, that you know, we can bring about peace. And so through people like Ly and the foundation, that we can truly build those bridges and to make a difference in this world.
You rather live in peace and not war, right? You rather live in happiness than not sadness. You rather love than hate. You rather have compassion than have an enemy. I mean, it's all that good thing. Why not? Not have nothing to lose, everything to win. That is what I'm trying to do.